All right, you guys ready? Because I'm ready. Happy St. Patrick's Day, St. Patty's Day, mate. I kind of went rogue on that one. But, I guess I should say Happy St. Patty's Day, laddie. Right? Well, this is very exciting to have this special out for you guys. We're doing a 2-film special. That's exactly right. You heard it correct. And for everybody who was born within the 90s, we know what a 2-film special is. You get two films for one, right? And that's what we're doing. For the other people who don't know, because you really don't know what a DVD is, well, you would normally buy a DVD that had two videos in one, right? So the one disc would have both sets of, depending on what movie there was, you would have 2 different movies that you would be able to watch with one disc. Now that everything's streaming, obviously it's a lot different than that, but it's all the same. We are going to be discussing and going at what the St. Patrick's Day vibe is with Leprechaun. And you know what? This was the most ridiculous film, both 1 and 2, and I have good hopes that the rest will be very ridiculous as well. And it just really brought me a lot of joy and a lot of like, holy shit, did we really allow this to go out? No, before I start like going off on a tangent and everything, let's just go ahead and start. I kind of wanted to bullshit a little bit in the beginning, just to let you guys know. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves and staying safe out there. I know here in the United States, St. Patrick's Day is a day to get fucking drunk and wild and out and doing whatever shit you can do, especially now that it falls on a Friday. You could be out going crazy. So just be safe. Make sure if you are drunk, Uber yourself home, and then, your car is going to be safe. And go get it later on. Other than that, my invitation is still out there. I am looking for a co-host. If you guys are just enjoying me being my only host and being the guy who does everything, because I also edit and add everything else that needs to be added. Well, I'm glad. I'm happy that you guys are doing. You guys are enjoying my company. But if someone else is like, hey man, I think we could have a better discussion on this if we have a co-host. I am looking for a co-host, so go ahead, hit me up. You can DM me on my Instagrams, which is just Gios _thoughts, exactly how it sounds, THOUGHTS. And then my normal email, Gio Saavedra. My last name is SAAVEDRA19 @gmail.com. Please use the subject line podcast host and let me know why you would be interested in hosting with me, and I will screen you out. If I don't get anything, well, you'll get me. So other than that, I hope you guys are enjoying it, and I am trying to get more into the feel of making this more exciting for you, so as you're listening, you're not like, oh god, am I listening to the guy from Ferris Bueller who's like Bueller, right? I hope I'm giving you a lot more excitement with my voice and a lot more of the idiocracies that come with these type of movies. And so, without anything, I really want to discuss how these 2 movies could have been created and how it was. And not to disrespect the actors that were in it, because, hey, if you're an actor, you got to get whatever gig you can get to help, get you money and pay your bills and stuff like that. And so I just thought it was just very interesting to see who was in this and how it turned out. So without any ado, let's go ahead and hit that theme, and then we'll start discussing these. All right. So I do have a lot of notes that have come into this, because there were a lot of things that just came out while I was watching this. And if you're wondering notes, if you've been watching or listening to my podcast, I've tried to do it different ways, and I realized that if I create notes, I actually am sticking to what I've seen and what I kind of wanted to discuss. If I don't put notes on, I just bullshit the whole time, and it ends up being very repetitive. And I hope you take my sincere apology if it does sound very repetitive. I am just trying to give you out the best content that I can, and sometimes one of the things that I tend to do when I'm pretty nervous, because I don't know why I'm nervous. I love doing this type of thing, but somehow I'm just like hoping you're enjoying it. And so when I am kind of full of anxiety and making sure like I'm getting great content, I tend to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat myself. So I apologize if you're like, man, all he does is repeat himself. I am just trying to get this out in a way that you will feel like it's hilarious or it's great or I want to keep listening, right? That's my end game. And then for anybody who hates horror films and are listening to this, I hope you just feel like that these horror films are nothing but what they are. They're just movies. They're fake. The only reason why they become scary or they get this type of exposure into what can cause fear is, one, the music's always the number one thing that creates anything to be scary. Without music, none of the horror films would be what they are now. If the music wasn't something that people would be like, holy, like that's what really makes people's emotion run wild, is how the person who's in charge of creating the music and finding what soundtrack they're going to put on and to create all the sounds in the background and all that stuff, that's what makes the movies scary. Other than that, the majority of the time, it's just people acting and trying to act scared, and the person who's scaring them, the monster, the demon, the possessed person, the ghost, the leprechaun, as we're going to be talking about, all of it's, again, another actor or just everything CGI or just, something that's created off of like paper mache. And it's just them trying to react to that reaction and so on and so forth. So understand that's what makes horror films scary. The other thing is if it's actually really true, we can't deny that there are really in this world really big psychopaths who have really done terrible things, have murdered people, have probably dealt with black magic per se, like cursing and haunting and stuff like that. So we can't deny that happens. But you're talking to me and you're talking with Gio, and I've said this multiple times. I don't believe a lot of that juju stuff, and I know a lot of people like don't mess with it, and I try not to mess with it, but I am gonna start trying to see if I start doing like these haunted tours that different cities have and trying to look at that stuff, because I honestly have never experienced it. My wife has, and she says like, oh, you shouldn't mess with that, but I'm just like, nah, it's all fake because these movies display it the way they are. I know how film works, and so, like, tell me what's real and tell me what's not, right? But anyway, back to this movie, 100% was not scary. Not at all. Not at all. Both 1 and 2 that we're going to be talking about today had nothing of fear in them, and it gave me the vibe of watching a 90s version of Goosebumps. Again, I keep repeating this, and wow. See, I apologize for repeating that. I'm repeating myself. But for all of us born in the 90s, we grew up with the Goosebumps, and they were like the cheesiest, the worst acting. It's like watching Disney Channel movies or Disney Channel movies or TV shows. Like, the acting was just fucking terrible. But we enjoyed it, and that's what Goosebumps was. It wasn't scary. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is gonna keep me up at night, unless you were someone who couldn't handle it. But for the rest of us who really were like, wow, this is ridiculous, this was Leprechaun to me. This was number 1, number 2. Both were, I was like, oh my gosh. Now, I don't want to disrespect the actors. Again, I did say it. The actors did a great job with what they had for a script. Most of the times, it's not the actors who cause movies to fail, but rather the script. I hate to put a lot of pressure on the script writers on this, but it's 100% you guys. You guys are the ones who tell the story. You're the ones who create everything, like every scenario, every scene. You're the ones who want to tell it in a specific way, and so if it's not a good dialogue, if it's not the correct moment, or if something's failing, it's not that the actors are failing. The actors are doing the best to act out what you gave them, right? So I'm not going to put blame on anybody else, because if you think about it, like in Leprechaun 1, we have Warwick Davis, who has played roles as Willow and Professor Wick, and he's done Professor Wick, I think it is Wick, but from Harry Potter. And he's just a really good actor. And then you get, the upcoming star Jennifer Aniston, who we've seen have done amazing stuff later on in her time. This was like the beginning of her career. And so they just had to do what they could do with the script. But if the script is not created to be great, then yeah, the movie's gonna suck. And I'm sorry, but you're the one who's writing it. It's the same thing as an author, right? If you're writing a book and your book is failing, it's not because, your writing is terrible. It's just because you just didn't create the correct scenarios, the correct thing to get into. And I'm one of the persons who's trying to get into writing, and that kind of gets into me, where I'm just like, am I creating something that people are going to be very interested in or not? Right? So again, the movie was just terrible. It had that Goosebumps vibe, that it wasn't scary. It was just going to be some ridiculousness happening. And so we set off on Leprechaun 1, where we get this guy coming back from his mother's funeral in Ireland, who I guess lived in North Dakota, because at the beginning I thought they were in Ireland, like he had just driven up and found, caught the leprechaun and got the gold. But no, he had generally grabbed the leprechaun, got the gold, and flew all the way back to North Dakota to show his wife, hey, guess what? I found gold. Or I got the gold. Right? And I thought that was a very shocking, where I was like, whoa, these guys were living in the States rather than living close in Ireland. But then I thought the funny thing was that the 4-leaf clover was his weakness. Like it was like the kryptonite, right? He was just like, oh no. And he even put the 4-leaf clover on top of the crate, and then just kind of like hammered it, and that made him weak. And it was just a little leaf, right? I can get all that other stuff, but it was just this little plant there that got his weakness. So I was just like, I already, when he was like, oh no, how'd you get that? I was like, seriously, like that's what's gonna get you. I'm like, all right, we are already seeing that this is gonna turn out crazy, and it did. Right now, he kills the wife basically by having the wife fall down the stairs, and then the guy looks like he died. Later on, we find out that he didn't die; he just had a stroke. But at that moment, we thought he was dead, and so then we get, 10 years later, we get this father who's like, I bought this house at a great deal. And it's the same house, right? So the person had the stroke, and I guess was later put into a home, and the house got abandoned. And a great realtor was just like, hey, I got a great deal. Let's sell this. And the guy's like, I'll take it because it's a great deal. But this is like a meme that I saw on, I think, Facebook or Instagram, where it says like, it explains the realtor's like, oh, this house, has a family got murdered into it, and X amount of things has happened, and it's like families in in the in horror films are like, okay, like moving in, right? and and that's exactly what happened here. The dad was just super excited. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got a great deal on this." And then he's checking out the house. So I was born in the 90s. I grew up, and my parents were the ones who were dealing with the house and finding our location for us to live. We were going to house and stuff like that. And I didn't really understand the concept of buying a home until it was my time to actually buy a home, and or even like rent an apartment, then get a house, and then from a house to get a townhome to a house, and then to house to another house, right? Getting all that process, was it customary for those who were actually adults and buying homes in the 90s? Was it customary to buy a house without viewing the house first? Because I have never in my entire time where I was deciding to buy a home did I say I'm not gonna look at it. I'm just give me the greatest deal. Doesn't matter. We're gonna do it. No, I actually would be like, okay, oh, let's go look at the house. Let's see what they have. What are the things that maybe I'll need to fix, or maybe I can kind of remodel, and what are the other things that I can kind of do. So those are the things that I don't think a lot of people did back then, because most of the times when they're like, oh yeah, we bought this new house, but then they arrived at the house and they're like, don't worry, it's a bit of a fixer upper, and it's like, did you know it was a fixer upper beforehand, or did you just be like, well, whatever, we got a good deal, and we're just gonna deal with whatever we got, right? Like, you get what you get, and you don't make a fit, is what my daughter keeps trying to repeat herself whenever I give her something, and she's like, I didn't want this. I'm like, what? Right? But was that customary back then, not to do like that whole due diligence where you're gonna check and make sure that everything's fine with the house before you actually settle in with it? Or were people just more willing to be like, yeah, I don't give a shit, I'm just gonna fix it myself, right? If that's the case, great, you guys are all handyman. I have a post on my blog that you 100% know I am not a handyman, so I 100% will look to make sure what place will I have the least work to do to fix it, or at least the least work of stuff that I can do to make it look better. And so now you get this house where now we know he's in it, and I guess the dad had a great deal because he hired a guy and his I guess two kids, not his two kids, but his two friends who were kids, or maybe his sibling and a friend. I don't know, but he hired these guys to paint the house, which they were painting it a terrible color, a terrible like blue and red. Like how American was that? Like, were they gonna add stars later on? I don't know, because they never got to finish the painting. Obviously, they got interrupted because the Leprechaun was able to get released, and now he's still looking for his pot of gold, right? And the weird thing about this is that one of the kids, per se, looks like a fucking adult. He looks like he looks like he was like 20, maybe, give or take. Like, and it's the same actor that was coveting Pee Wee Herman's bicycle. So in this one, he looks a lot older. He looks like almost around the same age of the other guy that was also painting. But then they're like, oh, don't worry, he's just a kid. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. There is no way that guy's a kid. If that guy's a kid, then I'm a kid, right? No way impossible was he a kid. But anyway, they referred to him as a kid, maybe because he wasn't mentally mature enough as an adult. But I just feel like that part was just super ridiculous. And then we get, Jennifer Aniston, who's that, very pristine, I don't want to get my hands dirty, or I don't want to break a nail kind of type of girl from LA, or who moved out to LA, but she was with, wherever the dad lived prior. And then she came to live with him during the summer, and she's like, oh no, I don't want to live in this house. It's so gross, and spiders and all that stuff. And then the only reason why she stays is because the guy tells her, oh, I didn't know girls can be scared. And she's like, I'm not a girl, I'm a woman, and I'm going to stay. And it's like, okay, like you could, you could, if you had your values, you would have probably been like, no, you know what? No, I don't stay in dirty houses, and I'm out. Right? I guess nowadays probably it's a lot different. But nowadays a lot of women are like, no, no, no. I get to decide, and if I don't like being in that house, I won't get in that house, right? Because you can decide that. But back then, I think it was still that whole like, what can a woman do? And if a woman, like if a man can do it, a woman can do it too. And so he's like, well, a man's not scared, and she's like, well, neither am I. And so then she decides to stay, which is great for the dad, right? Yay, my little daughter's staying, right? Um, but then everything else happened. So obviously that's the reason why she had to stay. No, no, sorry, that's the second one because he's not really in this one. He's only looking for his gold. In the second one, he gets pretty sexual, which I don't know how the both kind of coincide. I don't know why that change happened, and we'll get to that. But before we move on, we're going to talk a little bit more about number one and just how it ended up going on, and then we'll take a little break right now and be right back. All right, we're back. Okay, so going back to the one man that they said that was a kid. There was a part where the kid wanted to use the gold, he says, to make him like really smart. And man, were we cruel back then? And I'm gonna say it the way I want it. Were we fucking cruel back then? Holy shit! Like, uh, our past, and if we look it through history and we look through all this, society had really done some bad damage on people that are just different, and it could be like this guy could have some learning disabilities, and we were just like calling him stupid. Back then we used to use the word retard, and that was so totally incorrect, and we're looking to fix him, right? Because you want to fit in the social construct. Like, people make fun of him because of all his crazy stories and all the nonsense that he makes. So they talk behind his back, and so his friend hears that stuff, and he's like, no, I wanna fix him. And I just feel like that's so messed up. Like, we shouldn't be fixing people. We should be understanding and accepting. And maybe because I was in that part of, I was a crazy chubby kid. I'm a chubby adult now, um looking to lose weight, like always. But when I was a kid, I always remember I had just the craziest imagination, and I still kind of do, and I get to enjoy it with my daughters, and we get to talk about, create little worlds and stuff like that. But I remember I was a pretty odd duck, and I unfortunately noticed a lot of the times when people would ridicule me and make me feel like I was just abnormal and not part of the group, and it just really made me feel so like low, so worthless. I don't know. It just made me feel like I was not valued in anyone's life or anyone's group per se. Like, that it wasn't worth me being around anybody, right? And it was because of this mentality of we had to hide these people, anybody who had a disability, anybody who had a educational, like, uh, slowness per se. So, like, in Spanish, is retraso, right? And it's not meaning that you're way behind, but it's just like you're just struggling, right? And we would just hide this or say, oh no, he's just, he's a little weird. Once we get his wires fixed, he'll be fine, and stuff like that. So I thought that was fucking messed up that he wanted to do that to his friend, and he told the friend, like, look, people talk behind your back. And the friend, you could see he was like, oh, they talk behind my back. Like, it hurts to know that. Like, you're just being you, and these people are like, yeah, he doesn't fit the social construct. Oh no. And I'm just like, fuck that. Hell no. We all can be ourselves. We all can enjoy our life and be who we are, and we just got to find the people who are going to accept us, and we're going to accept them because we're all we're all us, we are our true selves, and if we can find people who enjoy that, then honestly we'll all feel safe, loved, and have a support system that will really make us achieve great things in the world. Away from that tangent, though, sorry, it just really kind of pissed me off when he said that. But again, that was the '90s, and that's what they kind of did. I just want to know one thing: is where does I know he had magic, the Leprechaun, but where the heck was he pulling things out of nowhere? Like he walked into the barn, came out with a tricycle, right? And then he found a car at the place that he killed someone, and somehow that car worked, or he made it work, and I think his magic was just whack. And then the way he killed people, like he bit the guy and said, "Give me my gold," even though like the guy had just gotten the coin. Like I feel like if he would have just asked, like, "Hey, they gave you something that's mine," he would be like, "Oh yeah, here you go, have it," and the guy would be like, "Okay, see you later," and then like disappear. I think it would have been fine, but he was just like he was one of those like shoot first, ask questions later type of thing, and so he just like bit the guy, and he's like, "I want my coin." The guy gives the coin. He's like, "Okay, good," and then he like uses what are those bungee jumps, and like jumps on the guy's chest and kills him. And I'm like, okay, one, he's little. Two, highly doubt that would really do a lot of damage. But again, in most horror films, the little thing, little person per se, when it comes to like the leprechaun or just the person that is smaller than everybody somehow has more power. Because I'm thinking about like Chucky, which is a doll. Everybody, a doll somehow had more like strength to get the kid, get the parent, they like to just do cause damage, and that's what made it just very weird that he had a lot more power to do that. But yeah, anyway, so now he's out trying to still find his gold, and uh, he gets caught by a cop, and I love how the cop is like super proud at the moment, like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be doing this," and "Ha ha ha, child," and "Take off your mask." And then once he gets like stabbed in the face, which with the nails, he's like, "Oh no!" But instead of getting in his car and driving away, he's like, "I'm gonna run through the woods," and then he ends up dying. And I'm just like, where's your common sense, man? You're a cop. You should have been like, "Oh shit," and go inside my car, be like, "Help, I'm getting attacked," and then like drive away. And people are like, "You're getting attacked," and like there could have at least been something there, but no, he decides to run into the woods. Not the best option at all, and thought he was going to survive, which obviously he didn't. And then I just want to know one of the things that happened in this one was, why did he waste his time shining the shoes? Like that was probably the one scene where I was like, what the hell is going on? Like he's searching for his coin, and then all of a sudden he like finds the shoes, and he's like, "Ooh, they're dirty." He's got to clean them. Like I know leprechauns have that tendency to be like the shoemakers, and they want to make sure to, or what's the word? I think like the cobbler, I think it was, or anyway, they're the shoemakers. They make the shoes, so they like to shine them up and make them look good. But out of all the time where he's like, "Where's my gold? Where's my gold?" Ooh, dirty shoes. Like that for me was like the most random thing that ever happened at like in all the things. And then the one ridiculous thing that happened was that his little car thing was strong enough to turn over their truck. Like it was small. It was if anything, if it was one of those uh type of cars that are created for like scouts or something like that, it's made out of wood. And I don't know how it would have been that strong to do that. Obviously, it wasn't. But again, we can cause it saying that it's because it's magic. Ooh, but I don't think it was. Uh, and so we get this whole thing, and and now he's still trying to get after them. And what I thought was funny was that she got scratched by him. The dad thinks it's a cat, gets bit by him, and somehow this whole time, uh, the dad is in the hospital. Like, the bite really caused him to be hospitalized through the whole night rather than just kind of bandaged. Like, it wasn't even that bad. And even if it caused any stitches, I've seen most of the time when you go in for stitches, it's just a stitch, wait maybe 2-3 hours the most. And again, they just kind of bandage it up and say, okay, just make sure you avoid water, this and this, and then they give you a list, and then you're out. The fact that the dad was gone the whole time was just like, did he just want to be like, you know what? I've been, fixing my house for one day. I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna stay here. And they're like, okay, cool, right? um, and so that's what made the whole part ridiculous, because the dad never even knew what was going on until, I don't even think he even knew what was going on at all. Maybe they told him what happened, because he arrived at the end, and he arrived when they exploded the well where the leprechaun was. But other than that, like, what were they gonna like? Was he gonna believe him, or was he gonna be like, "Oh, cool, you just blew up the well, great, right?" you know. Uh, well, we end up finding out that that old man Grady is alive. He just had a stroke. And when she goes to find out, like, hey, how do we kill this guy? Or how do we kill the leprechaun? The leprechaun's already beat her and killed the guy. But yeah, conveniently stored him in the elevator. And she ran directly to that elevator while escaping the leprechaun, and was able to have a brief conversation before O'Grady died, which was very convenient. Very convenient. Like, he was just like, nope, my time is done, but this is how you kill him. And then he's like, 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 no, you probably would have already been dead. You wouldn't have had any opportunity to talk. But again, script writers, think about these things. I'm not a script writer, but I've seen so much movies that maybe I should start getting into script writing. I know it's a hard thing because you have to think of all these other aspects that I probably don't like to do when it comes to writing. But come on, that was way ridiculous. But anyway, he at least had enough power to do it, and he just said, "Get a 4-leaf clover that I have somehow, uh, you know." planted by the well, and from there you'll be able to hurt him, right? And so we get this whole her trying to go get the 4-leaf clover, because they find out, okay, the money is what he wants, or the gold, and she goes to get the gold, gives it to him, and we all know that he's missing one coin, because Ozzy, the kid man, or the man kid, ended up swallowing it, right? So she now has to go and get that 4-leaf clover, and honestly, they were searching for like I would say like 30 seconds, and she was just like, I can't do this. And then Ozzy comes in and is like, no, you gotta believe. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, believe, Charlie, believe. Like, what was it, Angels in the Outfield type of shit? Like, he was just like, you gotta believe. And then she's like, okay, I believe. And then, bam, and like, it was right there in her hand. I was like, oh my gosh. It was the cheesiest line ever created. And then we get, they give, the kid is being taken, and was about to get killed. They go after him, and then he's about to go kill Ozzy because he realized that the coin is in his stomach. And so then the little boy gets the 4-leaf clover, puts it, I think, sticks it on gum, and then shoots it like before he shoots it at the leprechaun, he says, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms," like any one-line killer, like you killed my bird, and like throws it in right from Deep Blue Sea. and then all of a sudden, like, it just goes in his mouth, and then he just like starts melting, kind of like what was it, like the gremlins who melted and like just got all gross, like and, and he was still like, no, I'm gonna do this. And so then, like, they kicked him down at the well and added some gas and threw a match, and then it exploded big. Right now, I do believe that explosion would have actually happened, because I remember one time with my cousins, we went to the cabin that my uncle had, and it was winter, and we were just sitting there, not snowboarding, but we were just sledding, and we wanted to get we came in, we were really cold, and we wanted to get the chimney started, and it was just taking forever. So then I remember we had like a little spark in there, like a little fire kind of going, but it wasn't grasping all the wood. And one of my cousins went into their garage, came back with a gas canister, and he's like, okay, this should light it up really quick. And honestly, he poured very little, and you just hear a boom, right? And I'm sorry if that hurt your ears, but and then all the ash in the chimney just boom came out, and that was just like very little, like drops of gas. It made that like explode. And so the fact that he like poured a lot and it exploded, I can kind of see it. Probably not too exaggerating how it was, but I can kind of see that could actually happen. And that's how we ended number one. And then of course before he died, he ended it with a rhyme, and it's crazy how it kind of sounded rhyming right there. But he ended up just like giving the basis of him coming back. However, that wasn't followed in Leprechaun 2. Because Leprechaun 2 dealt with a different story. Continuity, people, when it comes to sequels, you gotta take the basis of the first movie ever created, and when you're making the second one, just follow it. Look at the first one, look at the content that was created, look at what was said in the script, and be like, okay, we got to make sure this is gonna continue on this way, so that way it's there. Nope, second one totally different, totally opposite of everything. And so that was number one, really ridiculous. How do we get to number two? I will tell you right after our break. So you stay put, and we will talk about this after the break. And we're back. All right, before we get on to Leprechaun 2, I wanted to kind of do my own little commercial. I am selling shirts that you can find on my Etsy shop, which is Geo's Thoughts. If you don't know where to locate it on Etsy, just go to geosthoughts.com, and there's going to be a tab that says Etsy shop. Click there, and then you'll see the 3 shirts that I'm currently selling. There is one particularly for the podcast that has a picture of a lot of the characters of horror films throughout the shirt, and then it says, horror films thrill me, kind of a little play on words. So go ahead and get your shirt today. Honestly, I'll probably make a better design, but this is a design that I created that I felt really good to kick off season 2. So if you haven't gotten it, that's where you go, geosthoughts.com. And the Etsy shop. If you don't want a shirt, but you still want to kind of help me out as a creator of this podcast, I do have a button there that will allow you to send me a Venmo of any contribution, really, as I'm doing this, so that way I can also enjoy my hobby, but make sure I am covering what I need to cover, right? If it sounds like I'm begging, I am not begging. I'm just saying, help a brother out, right? Leprechaun 2 now. All right, Leprechaun 2 deals with a whole different story. Okay, and this is like the biggest pet peeve that I have when it comes to sequels and movies that somehow create a 2, a 3, a 4, or whatever ones you have. They don't stick to the original content, right? So The first one, he was after his gold. It was taken from him. He's gonna go for it, right? The second one had nothing to do with that except at one moment of time. But this one had to do that when he's 1,000 years old, he gets a bride, and he's now like a horny son of a bitch, and he wants to, he wants to get a bride. He has a slave, and he ends up choosing the daughter of the slave. And of course, he had to say a rhyme to say how she's gonna say, like, if she sneezes 3 times, then she'll my bride, she'll be my bride or something like that. And so he finds the daughter, and she's about to sneeze, but I don't think she does actually sneeze at the end, which ends up, him being mad at the servant, kills the servant because he doesn't get a bride, and then causes like a curse on his bloodline, saying that I'll come back in 1,000 years and I will marry your bloodline in 1,000 years, and we'll leave it to that. Which was again not the same, because when the cop caught him in Leprechaun 1, he said, "What are you, like? How old are you? 10 or like, you're a kid?" And he's like, "I'm 600 years old." So are we dealing with a different leprechaun, or did this one just kind of forget? Was, like, did this happen way before? Like, I don't, because the time that he was having his birthday, we were looking like medieval times. With the way that they were talking, like the way the servant was talking, was medieval times. It wasn't anything new. And then this movie came out a year after the first one. So you're thinking, okay, it's going to continue on to here. Like, I in my mind was thinking, okay, we're going to find someone who decided to buy the well, or to get that area. Let's say they're going to demolish it and create something in that, where that house was. And then someone finds the pot of gold. And that's what brings him back to then say, I want my gold, right? Kind of the same aspect of number one. No, this was just like, nope, I am going to get my bride. And then leaves it on to that. So, writers, if you're the same writers of number 1 to number 2, shame on you for not keeping the same thing. Shame, shame, shame. But if you are a different writer, shame on you for not going to number 1 and figuring out what that is, and then saying, okay, here, we're going to continue it in this way with adding the aspects of the rhymes he said or stuff like that, so that way it's kind of the same. But anyway, it just had to become more sexual, because in the U.S., if it's not sexual, no one's going to be interested in it. And I hate that about horror films in the U.S. Again, we talked about it in our last episode with Valentine, where most of the time, like with Valentine and even My Bloody Valentine, we talked about how, they had the agenda that if you had premarital sex, you would die, kind of a thing. But people wanted to see nudity, and people, like, at least those ones you didn't see nudity, but and there's other ones where you just see nudity, and everybody wants that because that's what it was. And if there's no nudity, I'm not gonna watch it. At least that's how I felt how it was. So I feel like on this one, it was just very strange that they just had to make it super sexual because he needed a bride, where then he wanted to put his offspring, and then so on and so forth. But the way he made it to LA is the weird one. Like, as the guy's giving a tour on like the most cheap skate tour I would never do in LA. I would never do at all. I would see the lies in their eyes. As he's doing it, they go to the Houdini's house. He says whatever, thing about what they had to do, but then in the Houdini house, there's a tree that was like, this is a gift from your Irish lads, and they gave him a tree, and somehow in that tree is where the leprechaun lived, and that's how he kind of gets introduced. Mainly because a hobo lays next by him, and I'm sorry, the homeless person, if someone got offended by hobo, but the homeless guy, and I'm not going to say person because he is a guy, the homeless man actually like laid down to get a drink. The leprechaun grabs his drink and then he's back. And so now he's like, all right, now that I'm here, I'm going to look for my bride because it's been 1,000 years. And I'm like, okay, so this is where we're going. This is the take that we're taking again, right? Again, same atmosphere as the first one, like very cheesy horror. He takes the homeless man's gold tooth because now he's wanting to collect it rather than protect his own. He does a little like stick trick to try to find the person that will become his bride, or the woman or the lady who will become his bride, and then some guy gives him money and says, "Hey, good job on the trick." Who has a golden ring, and then he just like rips the ring, says the cheesiest thing like about a finger, right, and and then takes the gold and kind of just goes there, right. So now we're basically seeing a story of him going around trying to find a girl that is going to be, which we already knew who the girl was going to be. It was going to be, I already forgot her character name, and I honestly watched this movie like about like 20 minutes ago. But it's the main girl that's there. I think Brittany is her name. And so now he's going to create her, make her be the bride. And then we get introduced to Brittany and her boyfriend, who end up fighting because the boyfriend's also a sleazebag who does the tour, like the sleazy tour, and ends up blowing off their date because his actual, like, I don't know if you call it like partner in the business got super drunk that couldn't do the tour. So he does the tour, she leaves, she goes with another guy, but they never in the whole conversation that she had, like, it's okay, boyfriend and girlfriend can get mad. It's the same thing. Wife and husband can get mad. They can do their own shit separate until they kind of come back and reconcile. And on this one, the guy, like, she got mad and she just wanted to go to the golf cart, or like the go-karting, and he finally takes her, but he has to also drop off the people from the car. And so she's just mad and she's going to go. And then there's this other guy who's like, well, don't worry, she'll be safe with me. And then he starts shooting his shot, which I think was like, dude, bro, like, they never in their conversation said, like, we're done, we're through. Like, she was just like, I just don't want to be around you right now. Or, like, you know, and doing, like, the threatening, or, like, maybe you won't see me again, or something like that. You know, like, kind of just doing that type of thing that happens when couples just kind of have a little argument, right? But this other guy's like, nope, I just want to shoot my shot. So after the whole night's done and this other guy takes her home, he shoots a shot and she's like, no. And he's like, seriously? He's like, I took my day off. And she's like, well, like, in all honesty, she didn't even ask him to take it. He just did it on his own. So he was honestly, he's not that good friend, right? He's always going to be looking for what's in it for me type of thing. And so he got he got what he deserved in honesty, because he ended up dying just a couple minutes later, which again, we see nudity on that part, which I thought was dumb. Like, there was no need for it. It's useless nudity for no reason other than to say, hey guys, you want to watch this movie because you get there's boob time at this minute. And all the guys are going to be like, no way. And then you're going to go to Blockbuster, you rent the movie, and you go watch it, and you're like, dang, boobies, right? I guess that's how the dynamic was back then. I was a kid. I wasn't able to rent back when this movie came out, but I remember when I saw this in the early 2000s. I was already now a young man in the early 2000s. I remember that's kind of like, hey, are there any boobs in this? And they're like, yeah, no way. And you watch and you're like, like laughing in your back, right? And I feel like that's the only reason why this had it. And the guy ends up dying in like probably the most stupid way, where he is projected the woman now. So now this the leprechaun can project mirages or like, you know, like illusions. That's the word that most fits it. So he can project illusions and make people think that they're seeing something. And so now he he can do that and change his voice. While in the first one, he just changed his voice and people just believed him that way. But this time, it's like, nope, we're gonna make sure that he can do all this other stuff as well. So I thought that was like, oh my gosh, they're adding ridiculous powers to him as well. Uh, and so now he finds this girl. He finds Brittany. She sneezes 3 times. Luckily, the boyfriend's there to reconcile the damages that were made with her little spat, and then he sees what happens. He almost ends up dying. They have to fight the leprechaun. The leprechaun tells him that it's his bride, and then the gold coin gets lost, and he ends up keeping the gold coin, and then he takes the girl, and they go back to the tree. Right now, I felt this part was the cringiest part of this movie. Again, this has nothing to do with the actors. This has nothing to do. This part does not have nothing to do with the script. I just felt like this guy, the leprechaun, kidnaps a 16-year-old girl and like says under force, and says you're gonna create my offspring, and we're gonna like have sex, and I'm gonna have my way with you because it's our wedding night. And obviously this movie was created way before Elizabeth Smart, and Amber, and all the the Amber Alerts, or like Amber, the fiascos and all that stuff that occurred in that time with child abductions and raping and stuff like that. So I thought this was like, oh my gosh, like whoever created this probably helped not helped the mentality, but just someone was already just loopy enough to be like, ooh, I could do that too with a young person. So I thought that part was pretty cringy, because I was like, oh, this feels like a hashtag Me Too type of situation and scenario that I don't think works. But then he goes fucking crazy because he realized that he's missing 1 gold coin. So now we're back at the point that now he's after his gold, which takes up the rest of the whole movie, because he knows that it's coming back to me now. Cody is the one who has the coin. And Cody's being looked at by the cops because they found the other guy's body. The other girl is missing, right? Brittany's missing. And so they're pinning it on him because they found the flowers and his name on it. And so they're trying to find him. He goes to his buddy who, kind of tells him, like, look, what you're telling me is false. Like, there is no way that there is a leprechaun. Until the leprechaun shows up and just straight up like, I want my money, or I keep saying money, I want me gold, right? And then the guy like remembers, believes them, and then they're like, we're gonna fight him. And so then I had the question, because like he touched the bars and it burned him. And so one of the weaknesses of leprechauns that I found in like lores was is the 4-leaf clover, wrought iron, the destruction of his gold, which could also be used to kill the leprechaun. And then another weakness is that he fears a medallion that can turn him into stone, right? And so somehow wherever he was touching was just burning him. So everything was made out of wrought iron. And I was like, is there so many things made out of wrought iron? And as I researched a little bit here on our good old friend Google, yes, there is. So if you're wondering, like, why is it possible that he got burned? Well, because everything, I'm not sure if now in 2023 a lot of things made out of wrought iron, but at least in the 90s and early 2000s and somewhat, a lot of things were made out of wrought iron. So he was basically coming into a world where his weakness was everywhere. It would be like Superman walking into a house that everything's made out of kryptonite, and him being like, what the hell? That's exactly how it was. So they were able to find wrought iron like very easily. Hence, they locked him in a box that was created in wrought iron. But because of greed, obviously, he ended up killing Cody's friend, or business partner, and escaping that little box, which goes to another lesson of horror films. Greed always leads to death or misfortune, which is always death, right? Don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. It's okay to want more, and it's okay to work for more. But when you have that more and you want more, that's when you start hitting a line that could cause a lot of different difficulties. But this is just my opinion, right? And like in messaging, IMO, right? Just letting you guys know. So now we're after this whole thing of him fighting Cody to get his coin. And luckily, Cody is smart enough to be like, no, I'm not going to get you the coin unless you give me Brittany. And, he's pretty cunning. The Leprechaun tries to fool him. He doesn't get fooled. You realize that if you have the coin, the Leprechaun can't hurt you or damage you, which was kind of weird because then if we look at number 1, when he was trying to get the coin out of Ozzy's stomach, he technically shouldn't have been able to hurt Ozzy, like either bite him in the ear or do any damage to him, because he at least had the coin inside of him. It was in him. Unless it couldn't be like inside your digestive system. It has to be like you have to be holding it. But Cody had it in his pocket, right? So that's where, again, continuity wasn't really good. And so now we're getting close to the end where Cody knows where he's at because he remembers the homeless man saying that he saw this little man come out by the Houdini place. So he's going to go over there and try to fight him in his own turf, right? And he takes a wrought iron stick and they're on their way, right? He arrives there, and now he's basically playing in this house where he can't escape because it's like those fun houses. And at least he finds Brittany, and he tries to find ways to help her and rescue her and all that stuff. And at least at the end, we get a pretty good conclusion. But before we get to the end of number 2 and the end of the podcast, I'm going to go on one last little break, and then we will be right back. All right. So let's finish this off in all honesty. So now he's trying to escape, trying to get away. He's fighting skeletons that are very puppeted per se. And then we get to a point that he finds Brittany, and Brittany's like, let's just go, and I love you, and give me the gold coin. And then like kisses him, and so he gives him the gold coin, and then he's like, you're gonna die now. And then he realizes that the coin that he gave them is chocolate, which I saw it coming the moment that Cody was in the bathroom taking a piss, and that other little guy comes in and's like, hey, you want some of me gold? And he's like, it's real milk chocolate, right? And so he's like, I saw it coming. I was like, this guy's going to fool him and do it there. Well, anyway, that fools the Leprechaun, and he gets super pissed, but luckily Brittany grabs the wrought iron, stabs him in the heart, and he ends up boom, exploding. So they're able to escape the little tree place, and he still has the coin in his hand. She asks him, hey, are you going to keep it? And he goes, it's not worth it. Tosses it back, right? Tosses it away, whatever, in the bush, and walks out happily with Brittany, which I don't think he should. I don't think he should be happy because the cops are still finding him. He technically is an accomplice to a murder, and Brittany's missing. So now they have to go and kind of face the cops saying, I'm not missing. I'm right here. Hello. But yes, he's dead, but he didn't kill him. It was a leprechaun. Like, I don't think they're going to believe him. So I think he's still going to get locked up. So I don't think he should be happy about it. But again, that's how it ends. And so the ending of that one was like, okay. And this time we didn't hear any rhyming of the Leprechaun saying how he's going to come back. So we're going to see how he does on Leprechaun 3 and 4. We're going to see how these, if any of these all combined. Because so far, Leprechaun 1 and 2 have no connection as to if this is the same Leprechaun, if it's a different Leprechaun. Because the first Leprechaun was 600 years old. This one's 1,000 years old. Well, technically 2,000, right? And so I just believe, like, if they would have taken their time to write better scripts and made sure that the scripts for at least the second one got together with the first, at least to continue saying, like, this is where we left off. We were in North Dakota. The gold somehow was brought up and taken to LA because of dirt, and they needed dirt or something like that, or somewhere like that, and someone finds the gold, and then that's how he revives. Then yeah, that makes a lot of total sense. But the fact that the first one had nothing to do with the second one he just wanted to get his, he just wanted to fuck, and that's it, right? Like, I just want to get, I want to have kids and have more Leprechaun, and that ended up being just like, that's his goal. And then he's like, oh no, now me gold, I'm missing one coin, and then went back to the kind of the same dynamic, which it was like, seriously, he had all of it. He could have been like, let's finish this, let's get you the kid. And I'm not saying like do the raping, like I'm just saying, like, he could have had his agenda been like, okay, well, we're here at this moment right now, let's do this, and then I'll go get my gold, because the kids ain't gonna leave anywhere. But he's like, nope, you stay here, I'm gonna go get my gold. And then it's like, oh, okay, so now he's after his gold again, even though he wasn't after that. He was collecting other people's gold, but he wasn't really, like, no one had taken his gold. He just had awoken to be like, I need a bride. So again, these movies are ridiculous, but no disrespect to the actors who partook in the roles and did what they could with the script. They just were giving it and did the best that they could. And I honestly enjoyed it as a funny, like, holy cow, this can't really be happening. I think we're going to be finding some pretty cheesy movies that are in the horror genre that are almost the same way of this. But I hope you guys enjoyed this double feature and I loved the fact that these movies were so ridiculous. I hope you guys enjoyed it and been like, man, these are ridiculous. But you know what? We got something great to discuss on our podcast or in my podcast, and we enjoyed our St. Patrick's Day. So other than that, you guys, we are still going to be hitting Leprechaun 3 and 4 because March is not over. So St. Patty's Day is all of March. And I will be basically caught up. And then in May or in April, I apologize, we'll be hitting just our normal schedule of every Sunday. So if you are enjoying these throughout the whole week, I apologize. It's not going to happen that way. One, because scheduling, but two, it will be a lot better for me to be able to provide you better content and have you guys enjoy your Sundays when it comes like that. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.